First and foremost, congratulations on the film. It is wonderful. It is an
Oh,
incredible
thanks.
feature debut showcase for this particular new skill set you've accumulated over the years.
I don't know if it's
Um,
necessarily all that new, but yeah.
well, let me rephrase then. It is new to, I think, a lot of people who
Sure,
may be
yeah, yeah.
fans
I
of
guess
your
from
acting work.
I
I
have
was certainly surprised when I saw the trailer, and right there next to the director's name, director of photography, Giovanni Ribisi. I don't think I've ever
yeah.
seen that in a trailer before.
Yeah, I know that was interesting. That surprised me as well.
So let me ask you about this. When you originally read the script that became Strange Darling, what about it inspired you, both from a story standpoint and also maybe got you excited, maybe sparked something in terms of cinematography, like maybe there's a scene or a moment or something like that that made you excited to be involved in that capacity?
It's a great question. It's sort of I'm trying to figure out the short answer to that because it's there's so many things. I think that it was really about just the way it read and something about it spoke to me. It was almost an experience reading it, and it was something that I had never experienced. If maybe that sounds overly dramatic, but I'm an actor, so there you go. Uh, and it was just something that I kind of couldn't help myself. Really, I called JT Molnar, the writer and director of the movie, within 15 minutes of putting it down, and uh and we were discussing how we could go about making it. And it was also something that spoke to another part of me in filmmaking and in producing, where it was something that was doable for within the scope of my company and the thing that I've been working towards for the last decade and a half. And so I guess it just, as far as for lack of a better expression, it checked off all these boxes in my head. And I was just, so yeah. And also it really is when you come down to it, and this is something about the movie that I think people are seeing. It's a performance piece. It really is made or broken on the actors' performances and the experience that they're having.
So that's really interesting, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I completely agree. It's very much a film that's driven by the performances, the two central ones in particular. Now that you've had this sort of experience on both sides of the lens, can you talk a little bit about how cinematography can be used to sort of enhance or drive a performance? And if you have any specific examples you can think of the film, that'd be awesome.
It's great. Yeah. So just even as an actor, going and learning about editing and learning about cinematography and learning about what it is to direct, and even on a practical level of, making and administering everybody to come together to do something that is, by all accounts, at this point in the trajectory of filmmaking, impossible, right? Um, it's so so many actors will get, myself included, for decades, get so concerned with uh uh certain factors that aren't necessarily even, they don't trust the director or the cinematographer, whatever it is. And so there's that part of it, but it is a collective medium, right? And so obviously you can really change a performance depending on what the perspective is of the camera. If it's 2 feet lower or even 6 inches lower, it's sort of not just the performance, but it has an effect on everything, and what possibly an audience might project on something. Um, and when you look at the complexity of that, combined with editing and directing again, and the writing, and specifically what one take is compared to a different, this is the miracle of filmmaking. And when you see a good movie, it becomes like, oh wow, this is more than there's more than what might just be a surface thing, or a 3-hour window on a Friday night for a box office number.
Right, very much so. One of the first things that people see when they start the film, right after the logos end, is that it was shot on 35 millimeter,
Right.
which I don't think is something. It very much comes across both within the content of the film itself and also throughout the marketing that that's an aspect of the film that everybody's incredibly proud of. And what spoke to me about it was that more so than because, being shot on film today is relatively rare, just based on the modern landscape. So, what is it that you think it is about celluloid that has this sort of different quality to it that draws you to it, or maybe would draw an audience to it?
Well, for me, it's just it really comes down to a superior image, but there's so many other factors as far as just the process of making a film on celluloid compared to what can start to be or feel possibly sometimes um, uh, it's I don't know. I don't know. I was about to say something. Maybe I should filter myself. But no. I mean, I think some amazing movies and beautiful movies have been made on digital formats. It's just something as far as again the final image and really the process of making a film. It's just something that I lean into a little bit more. It's it's I guess at the end of the day, it really is a tool, right? There have been some incredible movies made on iPhones, right? It really comes down to the filmmaker, but it's just something that I feel is just important as far as what's in my wheelhouse, and yeah, I don't know
Sure,
if that
sure.
answers your question.
No, totally. So then, speaking about it as a tool, because Strange Darling is kind of an interesting genre hybrid, right? It kind of plays with a lot of different tones. So, do
Sure.
you think there's anything within that in terms of using the right tool for the right story? Do you think there's
Yeah.
anything about this story that the celluloid maybe brings to it?
Yeah, it was definitely a part of that. JT Molnar, the director, is definitely we come from we're cut from the same cloth when it comes to film, and he really wanted to put that title card up. And I actually had concerns that it might be that it might take somebody out of it or make somebody start objectifying the film in a way that's not necessarily the experience of watching a movie. But I think that he was right ultimately in putting that there because it's part of the fabric. This movie speaks to films, and I guess maybe not just the kind of movies, but again, the people that were making the movies back in the 70s and the 80s, the genre films. There's a certain, I guess, for lack of a better word, a certain desperation there that I love. That it's not easy. It's not just going up to an electric machine and pushing a red button and suddenly it's filming everything. There's a little bit more conscientious work that's required, and I love that. I think that you can see that in the fabric of a movie.
Absolutely, 100%. Were there any films from that era that you were just talking about that maybe inspired you on a visual level or that you had in the back of your mind?
Sure, yeah. I mean, of course, a lot of movies from the 70s. There was one movie called The Devils that was a David Watkin shot film, Ken Russell, and just um, incredible. I mean, the visuals in that movie are unparalleled to this day. It's an incredible movie. But we were also watching a lot of movies from the 1960s and sort of again the British contingent out of that. For some reason, we maybe just because of the film's so phenomenal. But we were talking a lot about a movie called The Servant, a Joseph Losey film that Douglas Slocombe shot. Dirk Bogarde is in it. Harold Pinter wrote it, and it's just I don't know if you've seen it, or it's just a masterpiece. I highly recommend this movie. And I don't even know really what it has if it has anything to do with Strange Darling, other than it's such a high caliber of filmmaking that was inspirational for us. There's another movie that probably has thematically more to do with Strange Darling called Mademoiselle, which is again another David Watkin movie that he photographed. Tony Richardson is in it. This is a phenomenal unsung movie again, and I think that hopefully will maybe the Criterion Collection will find it one day or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, Mademoiselle.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Check those ones out. Um, I have one last thing, and I wanted you to walk along with me on a little bit of a hypothetical here.
Okay.
So imagine a scenario where you have all the skills and knowledge and experience that you do today. In a scenario where the original DP, for whatever reason, was not able to do it, scheduling conflicts, no hard feelings, what have you, is there a film that you've acted in that you think would have been cool to get the chance to shoot?
Wow, what a great question. Oh, I don't know. I mean, um, I- it's so difficult. I never thought of it like that. I think it was more or just more. I mean, honestly, it sounds really overly dramatic, but for me, being a part of a film or any production, the person that I was always in awe of was the cinematographer. And so that was my perspective, working with Andrew Lesney, Dante Spinotti, so many other people, Sal Totino. I think I was just always like, what are these guys doing? They're running around with this thing, this camera, and they're making this beautiful images. And you walk over to the monitor and just like, wait a minute, that's not, how are they doing that? And also just the mechanism of it. I think that just the engineering that goes behind that, and looking at how far it's such an incredible representation of how I mean, it sound dramatic, but how far we've come as a civilization that we can actually capture an image on celluloid or even in a digital format that is recording life, and that becomes an expression, and something that might have a different meaning when you combine one shot with the next, and suddenly there's the two parts are greater than the sum of their whatever that, yeah, you know what I mean. Anyways,
Greater than the sum of their parts.
yeah, exactly. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
Perfect. No, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, I love the film. I love your work on it. There's such a rich texture and quality to the images that I feel
Thank
like
you.
anyone who's looking for it will appreciate it.
Cool. Thank
Um,
you.
and massive congratulations and just best of luck on whatever comes next.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Thanks for talking and hanging out.
My pleasure. Have a great
All right.
day.